Hey everybody, it is Friday. I have about 10:45 my time. Just gonna have a little hangout. This is not gonna be a long hangout. This is not gonna be an in-depth hangout. This is not gonna be a free-for-all open hangout. Although if you want to come in, you're more than welcome to. The link is in the Great Debate community, so you can come in. And but this is my way to explain to people how to avoid straw man and straw man arguments and kind of what they are. Most of us already know this, so this is not for our information. This is for people like the clown car posse or people in the clown car posse that just don't seem to understand what a straw man argument is. Straw man argument is something that somebody makes, which is easy to knock down. It's an effigy that of their own making that has nothing to do with the person's actual argument. That is typical of what somebody would do when they can't actually argue against what is actually being presented, or they don't understand what is being presented, or they don't want to hear what is being presented. And that's usually the latter case. I find the way to avoid straw man arguments is pretty simple. I know it's going to come to a shock, but the best way to avoid it is to ask somebody what their position actually is. And then if you don't understand it, have them clarify it. But to argue against something that is not actually somebody's position is just a waste of time. Yesterday, my friend here, Dragnot, talked me into, or I should say, suckered me into a hangout with G-Man, and of course, I knew the end result before I even went in. Not a big surprise, but the discussion was supposed to be on him providing evidence of me lying, and which he failed to do. I mean, at that point, the discussion was over. I was there for no other reason but for him to show evidence. And as Dragnot said explicitly, where I have said that you can be an atheist and still believe in God. I have never uttered those words in meaningful way. There's no way you can believe in a God and still be an atheist. That makes no sense. It's just a contradiction. So my position is very simple, something I've mentioned many times in prior hangouts. If you believe in a God, and I'm using the word God in a supernatural context, because that's how God is used in these types of discussions, you cannot be an atheist. Now, there are other nuances and semantics, and people don't need to understand the word semantic is not a harmful thing. It's not a detrimental thing. Semantics just mean meaning. A semantic argument is one dealing with meanings. They're only kind of like fallacious when you're making a game out of it for equivocation, right? If I'm just using a game of, oh, well, I mean this and you mean that, and I'm just trying to play some sophistry here, that's when the conversation goes down, right? So if I'm using the word in a very specific meaning and somebody else is using the word in a different meaning, we could kind of come to a meeting of the minds. But as long as I'm consistent in how I'm using it, and I've made clear my meaning of the word, there's nothing wrong with that. It is still a semantic argument, but that is fine because semantic literally means dealing with the meaning of words or symbology. So when G-Man wants to argue these other things, I have no interest in those arguments because he doesn't know what my argument is. Why? Because he's never asked me. He's just never asked me what my position is. He just tells me what my position is and assumes he knows my position. But as Dragnot can point out, he's asked him, what is my position? What are my positions? He has no idea. He's never been able to answer them. Now, anyways, I'm going to bring in Drag here in a second. Just to let you guys know, I've been talking to Dr. Jerry Bergman earlier today. He's got some free time in his lunch. He might pop in. It won't be a full discussion. If you don't know who he is a member of Answers in Genesis and Institute of Creation Research. He's published, he's obviously published, but he's written a lot of blog posts with Dr. Tompkins, who you are familiar with, is the one that's arguing against the human chromosome number 2 fusion site. So if he comes in, I'm happy if CRISPR or Rational Mind or Ruhiv can drop in, or Jade, that's fine. I've sent them a link as well. But we're going to try to schedule a time where we can have a more formal discussion with him. He's just dropping by, if he does drop by, just to test out his equipment. But just to let you know, that is in the works, just in case it happens. But anyways, Drag, so far, I mean, have I made sense? Is it kind of like G-Man is literally just arguing with himself at this point?
Yes, he's not actually interested in what people are saying, and folks have kind of caught on to this for a while now. It's nothing new, it's nothing novel. It is, he has a misunderstanding. Well, first, he doesn't understand the English language. He doesn't understand idioms, metaphors, hyperbole. He doesn't understand any type of literary device that an adult 40 years old should probably fucking know. I can't speak to his education, but we know it's fucking non-existent. So the fact that I had to explain to him what a hyperbole is was kind of telling. What was even more telling was that when I specifically had asked him in private, where has Steve explicitly said that you can believe in a God and still be an atheist? Very straightforward question. And I left it open. It can be natural God, supernatural, whatever. It didn't matter. I just said a God. He would not give me a straight answer, and I asked him at least 3 times. And so that told me that he didn't actually understand your position, and that he had a misunderstanding that he was not wanting to rectify. He wanted you to have that position because he felt in his mind that if he could attack that, then that was his ace in the hole. And so it is dishonesty by him, because I say this because I specifically went, didn't you get into a hangout with all of us? This is after the fact, by the way. Wasn't there a hangout where you went in there, PZ Myers was in there, and then I said, oh, here, put it on the table. You can ask Steve what his position is and clarify it here and now. And he had no intention of doing that. He instead, and this is what's very, very telling right here. He told you what your position was, with you in the room, speaking to you person that has you position with you point to make. Like I just, that right there, if that doesn't tell you the dishonesty that resides within G-Man, and just the level of stupidity that he will sink to, I don't know what will. Like, it is unmistakable for any adult with more than 6 brain cells that this is a person who has no intention of having discourse. He has no intention of being honest. He has no intention or probably capabilities of using critical thought. And it's sad. And we've been over this for I don't know how many years, and he keeps proving to us that he is unworthy of having conversations simply because he is both dishonest and stupid. So yeah, he had no intention of understanding what your position was, and he spent we wasted an hour and a half of our time telling you and replaying a video which all of us were participants in the first place.
Yeah, and here's the bigger thing. He I didn't want to discuss with him anything else until one thing was rectified first. One thing was resolved, and that was him accusing me of lying about him lying, right? That's the only interest I had in that discussion yesterday. Nothing else was of importance. Any question he asked me is completely irrelevant until that one point is resolved. So until that point was resolved, I have no interest in continuing the discussion, which is why I didn't answer any of his questions. Now, I have a standing rule. You come into my hangout and ask me a fair question, I'll give you a fair answer to the best of my ability. I think that's how most people operate. I don't believe in avoiding questions. If you have to avoid a question, then maybe you haven't really thought out your position very well. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, or you know what, you might have a point, let me get back to you. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. I have no issue with that. But for somebody to deliberately say a claim that I have lied and then not provide evidence for it, and then try to argue something completely irrelevant and tangential to the actual discussion, I have no interest in. So when he's saying, well, Steve won't answer my questions, of course not. Your questions were meaningless because your questions, G-Man, were dealing with something of an argument that you don't understand. You don't know my position on it. And it's irrelevant to the fact that you made a claim that I have lied and you failed to provide evidence. You've played a video twice. Everybody watched the video. That video had never once remotely demonstrated that I said anything that you said I said. It did not have me anywhere in there explicitly saying that you can believe in a God and still be an atheist. It was just not in there. So as Direct pointed out, that was literally like 80 minutes of wasted time that could have been spent doing other things. I mean, I had maybe 20 minutes to talk, which is fine. I relinquished the balance of my time, but it was just G-Man rambling. That was it. It had no productive value. It had no expository value. It had nothing. It was just him rambling, making all these weird accusations. And all I wanted to know was, where's the evidence for what he claimed? That was it.
Yeah. The issue here, it comes down to, welcome, Tony. Just want to say you did well while being confronted with total ignorance. I mean, yeah, I had people contact me afterwards too, and someone actually gave me a phone call on my phone. It wasn't G-Man, and told me that they noticed G-Man took a few shots at me, and I didn't flinch. Like he's so I understood that when he came into the hangout, he was already at like 20%. I already knew that. And then as each turn passed, he kind of, escalated to 40 to 60, and then he went full G-Man even before he left. So I understand how it is to deal with a petulant child, and that's honestly how you have to treat G-Man. And I am not the only one who said this. He is an adult, petulant child who throws temper tantrums. Excuse me. And so it is. It helps to understand that when you have someone who can't control their own emotions and someone who is that unstable and that stupid, it's a dangerous combination. And so that's why you don't see me actually get upset. I laugh and I talk my shit, but I can't get mad at someone who doesn't possess the capacity to truly understand what he's doing. And that's, at the end of the day, that's why I give people the retarded puppy analogy. Like it is like dealing with a retarded puppy. You can't be too mad when he pisses everywhere. He can't help it. So it's just
I'm
going to
not mad at
happen.
him, by the way. I want people to know that I am not
Yeah.
upset by it. I mean, I expect this from G-Man. I'm not mad or upset or anything along those lines. I pity him. I feel sorry for him because he doesn't understand simple contextual English words and language and sentences. It's pretty notable at this point. But worse, he doesn't know how to have an actual discussion. He doesn't know how to have an argument. I mean, Shani and Antonio for like 3 hours, and I only caught parts of it, but for 3 hours had this little love fest last night that was kind of creepy and weird. But all they did was just bitch about me, and nothing they said that I had heard. Now, again, I didn't watch most of it, but from what I'd heard, they didn't get a single position that I had correct. Not a single one. It's they kept attributing things to me that I don't believe or that I don't think, which is called a straw man. So I just think it's kind of odd. If they really want to know what I believe, why don't they just ask me? None of them have. None of them. And Shani, I barely know Shani, but she's just gone off the deep end. She has no idea what I believe. She has no idea what my positions are.
Well, she doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
She's there to be a supplicant of G-Man. She is. If you actually go to Shani's channel, which my wife and I have been kind of binging on, because it's like Maury. Well, me and about 5 or 6 other people, we all send each other messages and timestamps when she goes off the deep end and she starts having emotional breakdowns. And so one of these several of these emotional breakdowns featured her sexualizing G-Man and talking about his body and how much he wants him, and then she'll go back to trying to be a prude and how much he's a brother in Christ, and then she'll go back to, oh, I want his body. And so she's saying whatever she needs to get with him, basically. So she will play the gigantic fucking succubus that she needs to play in order to get what she wants. So I wouldn't consider anything that Shani says in this respect valid in any way, shape, or form, because it's clear that she doesn't understand half the shit that we're talking about, and she never has, and she probably
really doesn't.
Yeah, she has no idea what you're talking about.
It was totally like a half-wit menage a trois last night.
Oh God, yeah. With Antonio,
that's the best way to describe it. It was a half-wit menage a trois. I was like, wow, these people have no concept of any of these arguments whatsoever. And what's worse is now they're saying that, like the great debate community is against Christians and they just lull Christians in. And it's almost offensive in some ways, because we have a lot of Christian friends who I respect immensely. This is why they come on my channel. This is why I get good guests. This is why I have Fuzz Runner coming on next week. This is why I have Dr. Hugh Ross coming on next month. This is why I have 2 other members of RTB that are coming on. One messaged me and said, I really like the way you had a discussion with Fuzz and Hugh. I would like to come on and talk to you and maybe discuss things with atheists if you want. Really nice guy. And I also, like I said, I have Jerry Bergman coming in here soon. So I'm able to get these people because there are a certain amount of Christians I respect. There's certain ones I don't, but that applies ubiquitously to anybody. There's atheists I respect. There's atheists that I don't respect. I don't care. And let me make this very clear for future reference, so anybody can come back and they could use this clip. I do not care what your religion is. I don't care what your theological beliefs are, as far as me wanting you to believe something else. All I care about is the science when it comes to that. If you tell me you believe in God and that God created the earth, okay, great. I'm absolutely fine with that. I will not go out of my way to change that one iota. That's not my shtick, right? There are other people that may be interested in that. I don't care. Straight up don't care. But I do care when G-Man says things like, oh, I believe in the ark. and the ark repopulated the entire earth with animals and all this other stuff. That is complete bullshit. That belief is wrong. That is demonstrably wrong. I don't have to respect that belief because it's fucking stupid. So, I mean, I just want to get that clear that Christians, I've never, ever, ever, since I've been on the internet, ever debased Christians. I've never, ever put a meme up that was offensive to them. I've never said anything against being Christian. That has never been something I have said. And it's almost a little resentful that this is what they say that I do, or the people in my hangout do, or that's what the Great Debate does, because I cannot point to a single instance where that has happened. Besides, some militant Christians have gone past the line, but most of them I banned anyways. So, I mean, Tony, either you guys, I mean, do you guys agree with that? I mean, do you see the Great Debate ever going after Christians? That's not what we do. I want Christians. I want a diverse group, you know?
Most of the key players are Christians. You got General Han Solo, Fiona, Jade, even fucking Max Hangs Out comes in with the guy Richard Bushley, I think his name is. There's quite a few people. I mean, if it was Christian anarchist, that's just a few I can name off the bat. But this is the us. I spoke about this when I was doing my little broadcast when I was out. It's always an us versus them, because they need to feel like they're being persecuted in some way, shape, or form. So they'll create this narrative where it is just, and that's why he keeps calling you an atheist, because he needs to keep lying to himself. And just think about every time he does that. Every time he starts going, oh well, it's the atheist, and Steve like these atheists, and so it is indicative of a mindset that only thinks in binary. He only thinks in black and white. It's either good or bad, Jesus or not Jesus. He doesn't understand the world. And so he has to boil everything down to binaries. And that's why nuance is lost upon him and context is lost upon him, because you need nuance and context to see the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'll never consider him a logical thinking adult, because he physically cannot do that. And it's sad, but it's true. His tenuous grasp of reality is why he's laughed at and why he will never be considered an adult, by his mentality.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned about him having to try to pigeonhole me as atheist. There have been people that have asked me off the record or off air or whatever, hey, Steve, can you kind of explain to me what your position is and why you're an agnostic? I'm happy to do so. Okay, there's been multiple people have asked me that. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with Alex Malpass, why I'm an atheist. He'll ask me, do you believe this? How do you think about this? Well, we'll kind of suss it out, right? I got no problem with that, right? Because at least they're asking me why I believe what I believe and what I believe. G-Man's never done that. He couldn't even formulate a guess what my actual positions are. Do you think he knows I'm an evidentialist or not? Do you think he knows if I'm a moral realist, a moral anti-realist, or
he can't even spell that shit? No, he has no idea.
I mean, I'm formulating my own positions. It's taken me 2 years to get where I'm at, to say, okay, this is where I think I am, where these positions make sense to me. But some of them, I don't know what I think. I'll be honest, they're confusing. The whole modal reality kind of stuff, confusing, right? I think I'm a modal anti-realist, but it's still confusing. The best way to avoid these strawman arguments is just to ask me questions. I don't mind. Come on in. Anybody can do it. I don't avoid questions. I don't avoid confrontation, but there's a way to go about it. And G-Man just asking me questions, not answering my own first, that's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen. If I have a conversation with somebody, it's going to be a two-way street. I get to ask, you get to ask, we have a conversation. But if I go into somewhere and I ask them, provide the evidence you claim that you have, that I've lied, and they cannot, at that point, the conversation is done. And I don't know where else to go with that. I mean, they don't seem to understand. G-Man did not provide what he said he was going to provide. There was nothing else for me to have in that conversation. And I wish he kind of would have. I wish it, or, not that I lied. I should say, I wish he kind of would have realized he doesn't have the evidence to go, okay, Steve, I was wrong about that. I apologize. Now let's talk about other things about the argument. I would have been cool with that, right? That's what he should have done. If that's the stuff that he wanted to talk about, right? All he had to do was apologize. And at that point, what am I supposed to do?
You mean show some of that Christian humility that he claims to have?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that was funny because there's a few people who caught in the live chat where he was talking about being very vengeful. And then some,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think it was One Way Apologetics. It might have been somebody else that said, well, G-Man. And then they would tag him and they'd put a Bible verse about that. He would go, oh, yeah. Like he forgot to be a Christian just now. Like, it is so funny because that's one of the reasons I don't think that he actually is a Christian. I think he wears the persona of a Christian so that his terrible behavior is not criticized. That's the
No,
only,
I mean, he's a Christian. I'm not. I don't.
like,
don't see him
and say that's me.
He's a
That's
bad
just
one.
me.
He's a bad
terrible.
one.
Okay,
That's for
well, you
sure.
know what?
Terrible Christian.
I'll be willing to concede that he's a terrible Christian,
Yeah.
a terrible example of what a Christian should be. A
Terrible.
I don't doubt for a second that he believes, but I don't think that his faith resides in the belief in the deity more so than his need to act as a shield from criticism.
Yeah, well, the whole vengeance thing. Oh, I'm going to flag Steve's channel. He did not just say that once. He said it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, and that's why I let him talk. That's why
And
I wanted
that's fine.
him to say it multiple times.
Yeah, I was like, oh, really? You're going to go flag my channel? That's great, G-Man. You know, I want people in the Great Debate to know that this is the mentality that these people have. By the way, I really want to hear Evidence say hi because I just love his voice. It's very soothing. So, Evidence.
It is.
There you go. Look at that.
Okay.
That
so
voice.
you hear me great.
I do hear you. You got to do more videos, man, because your voice.
I just
like
made a
butter.
video, and actually
like
a shout out to you. Actually, just uploaded.
YouTube?
Sitting here with my new Yeti Blue mic.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Why did I not get a notification? Because I haven't got notifications for shit lately. But you already uploaded it?
Yeah,
I haven't got a notification.
I guess you have to turn the bell button on.
I have the bell on, man.
I'm sorry.
On my list forever.
So anyway, I heard you talk about why we interact with Christians and that we not so much try to convince them that their beliefs are wrong. And I'm on board with that. I mean, even hostile atheists, so to speak, like take Aaron Ra, for instance. At least he used to be very hostile, and Matti Lahanti, they more lean towards this is the fact, that they try to convince you of the facts. So I mean, I don't personally go after a person just because he believes something. I mean, it's the stupid ideas we go after, and often we debate or discuss with creationists, and then they have stupid ideas by default. I mean, 6,000 years old, Noah's Ark, living in a fish, the Tower of Babel, denying evolution, and so forth. So
no, you're exactly right. I rather discuss the points, right? The arguments that they have, because those things have been debunked. The Ark has been debunked. There was no global flood. I mean, these are things that are not controversial in science. The Earth is not 6,000 years old. It's not reality, right? So I'm happy to say that I think those beliefs are ridiculous. I don't care about the God belief. That's not my shtick again. Now, I get that the Great Debate is about, God exists, does not God exist, and there's a lot of people that like to argue that, right? Floyd loves to do that. General loves, to argue pro. I'm fine with that. That's part of the Great Debate community. People can do that. But I just don't bother with that kind of argumentation. I don't really want to argue whether God exists or not. I've never been interested in that.
Yeah, but the one thing that is kind of strange is because Demon has this preaching for the choir mysteries, and it seems like we're preaching and everybody's preaching for the choir, because I personally have changed view about a lot of things. I mean, I used to make arguments against certain God claims, which I don't use anymore, and there are other things that I have learned just listening to Noel Plum 99 and other guys. But I have never yet heard a creationist change their view about anything, not to my knowledge anyway.
We've known.
One did. Or two did. Yeah. Wayne Fillmore obviously has.
Odeon did.
Odeon. Oh, yeah. There's another Odeon and Hunter Bailey.
Not these guys. I don't know who they are. But...
Yeah, they're not.
Okay,
they're not.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't know they are. So
they're not. They're not ones that make money off of Christianity. They're not like Kent Hovind level. They're just guys who just happen to be Christians, and they got exposed to this stuff. And so once they started learning actual science, they went, oh, okay, yeah, this shit is bunk. And so they held on to the religious beliefs, but then they shed the anti-science beliefs.
Yeah, but there is some you can change your mind, like turning your coat. You can change your mind. Okay, this I don't believe, but there's also some kind of level of, we have arguments that were debunked, I mean, 100 years ago, and they were even debunked when YouTube was new, like 10 or 15 years ago, and some creationists still use them. I mean, G-Man just made a video denying biological evolution. I mean, it's been a fact for 150 years. I mean, they still use this, a dog cannot produce a non-dog, and those. I mean, you can change your mind in certain degrees also. But most of them, I mean, why do you still use an argument that is wrong? There are no such thing as atheists and all this stupid.
I will say that I have heard from G-Man personally during one of the last phone calls that we had that he acknowledged that his belief system will override any other information that he gets. So he did admit to having a bias against evolution. So it doesn't matter what is presented to him. If his religious beliefs dictate that evolution is not true, then he will believe that. And so that was a bit of a candid admission, and I think that's something we all kind of knew anyway. But it's very
good to have him explicitly say it. Yeah,
he did because it was funny. The point that he was trying to make is that no matter what information he gives about Jesus or the gospel, people are always going to rail against him. I said, well, if anyone has a bias against something, then of course. And I said that's the same thing. I could say the same thing about you, because is there any amount of evidence that I could present to you to change your mind about evolution? And he paused and went, well, no, it is just my belief that it's not true. I said, okay, well then there you go.
Well,
so
you got
can't
crappy
criticize.
Beliefs.
Well, yeah, and then I told him you can't criticize other people for doing that then. And so after I said that, then he slowly realized that, oh, well, yeah, I can't do that then, huh? It never occurred to him that he couldn't do that. Like that's the sad part.
Hey,
that is truly sad part.
I always have a hard time finding your YouTube. It's like, God, I know it's evidence for you, isn't it?
Well, the channel used to be spelled like this. I write it in the chat.
Yeah, like backwards 3 or whatever. Yeah. It's like weird stuff. Yeah,
like that. I have been trying to reach G-Man via Skype for a very, very long time, and I think he denies my call. I'm very, very interested in to see why he has me shadow banned. I made a video about it. I mean, it's so sickening to me to say, okay, G-Man versus the world, come join me, please provide evidence for this and that. And then when we point out where they are wrong, or we correct them, and where we enlighten them, they ban you or shadow block you. It's kind of frustrating. I mean, what kind of great debate are we having if we don't listen to other views?
It's part of the course. Like he blocked my number after calling me no less than 9 times yesterday. I'm not even joking. Like actually, let me turn on my camera and show you so people can see what I'm talking about. Because throughout the course
why you doing that? Wait a second. I put the link to your evidences channel. Yeah, dude, I'm not getting your notification. That sucks. And you only had like 11 views. That's bullshit. We need to get that up. We need to get your subs up. We're gonna get you over 1,000. So come on, guys, go sub to Evidence. He's got some good stuff.
Hold on. Can y'all see that?
I'll put it in the video description when we're done. Yeah. 9 calls. Is that missed calls or just completed calls?
No, that's calls. The green arrows that he sent me.
Wow.
So
he blocked it out. So.
After that, he got upset because he wants evidence. He wants people to engage with him, but he doesn't want to actually hear what's going on. He doesn't want to hear anybody else's side. And even last night was very interesting evidence. Someone needs to download that video. He said that if he encounters the dictionary definition of atheism, he's going to ban, block, and boot anybody who presents it. So no one can ever approach him with the dictionary definition in any form of the word atheism. And that's interesting.
We don't use dictionaries anymore, because I mean I don't particularly like using the dictionary's generic lack of belief, but it's still a definition.
It's so sad. It's like when you're searching for the word close-minded on Wikipedia, the face of G-Man turns up. I mean, it's like that.
He wants
10
to
out of 10 memes, dude.
A dictionary, like I can understand in a sense where he's coming from. I wouldn't say you should block people that do it, but if you're using like a dictionary to define a philosophical term, you're probably not using the best resource. Like
that's why I don't prefer it either. However, I'm still not going to say, well, you can't use that. But I tell people this is the way I use it. use it that way or not. But what I find amazing is G-Man was telling people that I have been telling people some weird definition of atheism that has not really any definition, you know, because he's telling people that I've redefined atheism to believe the belief in, you know, no God except you can believe in one. What? Well, how does that work? Because I don't know how that would work in reality here. But that's what he's been telling people, right? Yeah. So yeah, he's like, the atheist community needs to get on Steve for redefining atheism. I'm like, I'm just using one of two major just definitions, but I don't care what you use, but I just prefer mine because I think it makes more sense. And most people in the Great Debate community prefer that definition.
Yeah, and even worse, even after you correct him with that, he still uses that straw man. So
that's the video, straw man. What's that, Richard? Your mic is
kind of. I know that we've talked about this like ad nauseum, so I don't want to get into a big tangent about this. But maybe, what is your definition of atheism?
Well, again, it's not my definition. It's just there's two common definitions out there. There's the Anthony Flews from his 1972 paper, I believe it was, the presumption of atheism, which is basically anybody who lacks a belief. And then there's a more formal philosophical atheist definition they use more in academics, which is somebody who actually believes God does not exist or actively rejects, you know, the concept, the belief in God. Somebody that thinks the proposition is false. There's many different ways of saying it. But it's more than just lack of belief, because agnostics lack a belief. Anybody who's a non-theist lacks a belief. And they kind of put all that into one category, saying, well, anybody who's a non-theist is an atheist. I reject that. I don't think that makes sense to me. I don't think that's a reasonable way of doing it. But American atheists do it that way. David Stillman does it that way. It's fine for them. Okay, but
the way I see it, it's just a difference. It's just a different system of definitions, and definitions are arbitrary. I just stick to the one that I use because it's the one that I like. That's pretty much the only reasoning I have.
Well, you got conversation. One second, you got to be careful when you say arbitrary, because I kind of agree. But G-Man, when he hears that, he was arguing yesterday that, oh well, that means you can make up any definition you want for a word. Atheism can mean that, you know, you're you know, a rich millionaire. That's how it works.
My counter to that would be, yes, but that doesn't mean that the definition is true. That the definition is always true. Like
of course not.
Rich millionaire. Well, just because you defined it, that doesn't mean that it's true. You're using different definitions,
or
and that's
useful.
called an equivocation fallacy.
I don't know.
How many definitions are there of Christianity? There are thousands.
I would say there are as many definitions of Christianity as there are Christians, because almost everyone that I've met says that the other people aren't true Christians.
And it's not so much true and false. It's just what is more useful, and what's more useful.
But, you know, I mean, Demon always turns that around. He says, okay, if you don't believe in any God, that makes you God. You don't believe in yourself. So I mean,
well, G-Man's
it's a win-win for him.
Yeah, because he likes to redefine shit in the middle of a conversation, and he does that. And that's well, I tell him, no, I said, no, my wife is God. So no, that's a slight correction on there. But the way that because he says he has two arguments now. He has the argument for supernatural gods and natural gods, and I don't agree with his definition. And I explicitly asked him one day, am I obligated to adopt your definition or your usage of a term? No. Okay. Are you obligated? No. And then I said, okay, so why are you making these arguments? Well, because you atheists. I'm like, okay, here, fuck, we go again. So it's up to the people having conversation. Like, if you're going to talk to G-Man, you have to understand that, one, he has a really weak grasp of the English language. If you are a non-native English speaker, you probably have a stronger grasp of the English language than G-Man does. I literally had to explain to this motherfucker what a hyperbole is. And
is he ESL?
Huh?
Is he ESL?
No. I think he's RETARD, but you know, but it's like it's frustrating, because you know that he has some type of mental impediment, but then he's also vitriolic at the same time. He has no fucking social decorum in sight, like no ability to express any type of tact, except when there's a nice soft female voice on the phone. That's the only time he calms the fuck down. But
well, a lot of us could say that.
Well, yes, that is fair enough.
I just find his mannerisms irritating, just the way he communicates. And I say this as someone who's had people say that shit about me.
Well, that's why I only take so much of them, right? I mean, they're saying, oh, well, if it wasn't for them, we would have nothing to talk about. That's just so not true. We will address things that they talk about, but most of the time in our channels, G-Man's name comes up very infrequently anymore. I mean, in fact, I think that's one of the reasons he's starting all this shit again is because we were kind of ignoring him.
No, he likes the attention. He does like the attention, and he wants to play it up. When he does debates, he wants to play it up. That's where he goes. He'll get his belt and he'll do his dancing and his seal noises because he likes the attention. And so, I mean, that it is. I'm not sure what he thinks that he's fooling. Is like, well, okay, we're all on the internet. We're all live, so we're all here to not necessarily put on a show, but we're all here to be live and to be viewed by people. So desiring that in it of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we're participants, but what if you desire a conversation with folk, then you have to go the extra mile to try and understand that. And G-Man makes little to no effort to actually understand people. And the conversation that he kept playing showed that when you specifically asked him, okay, G-Man, what word do you want to use to describe supernatural gods? And the person who, a person who doesn't believe in supernatural gods, and what word do you want to use for people who don't believe in a natural God? Let's put it out there. You know, what shorthand do you want to utilize for that? And he wouldn't give you it. And so, and his explanation was interesting. He thought that you were going to trap him in some way, shape, or form. Like you wanted to. I think that's the word he used was trap.
I didn't even have to say much to him. He was just hanging himself. In fact, his evidence that he presented was in favor of me.
And that's why I let him talk, because the more he talked, the more he explained that he was being evasive purposely because he did not want you to be allowed to take the position that you have, which is I disbelieve in these God concepts.
Yeah, and I think Pelagius says it the best. He says Steve defines God as a deity. G-Man defines God as anything that is, or anyone that is worshipped. That's a permanent impasse. I agree. I define God as a deity because theism is somebody who believes in a deity. So, you know, somebody who's an atheist who doesn't believe in a deity. Now, again, I don't care if he uses other terms, but that's my position. He doesn't get to dictate what my position is and how I use these words.
Yes,
I use these words.
He wants to dictate your position.
I know
exactly. That's the funny part, and he doesn't understand that he can't do that, and so he's frustrated.
You know, Stephen Drag, just for 1 second, think about what would happen if we used the Christians' arguments that they use against us to them. Let's say, okay, there are no such, there are no such thing as a Christian. Christians don't exist. They are suppressing the truth of atheism, or perhaps
in their righteousness.
Okay, yeah, or perhaps the creation myth. Okay, you cannot have something from nothing. So the God creating Adam and Eve must be false. I mean, if we constantly say these things in video after video for, let's say, 10 years, how would we be viewed?
That would be a terrible way to use the something from nothing argument, because the whole issue of something from nothing is we're not saying that you can't have that. We're saying that you can't have it without some sort of external cause. So with Adam and Eve, God would be the cause of Adam and Eve, right? So when we're talking about something from nothing, from an atheistic perspective, the argument would be that you don't have that cause, whereas we do. You don't have any sort of agent or any causal mechanism. But with Adam and Eve, we do have that. So
yeah, well, that's again going to the words, what they mean by nothing. That's why it needs to be sussed out, right? Because the word can mean different things to different people, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let me ask you though, you know, since he likes and people have asked me to do this, and I don't think I will because I don't need to, but since he keeps misrepresenting my theological position, I mean, if I went around telling everybody, hey, you know what, G-Man's a Scientologist, you know, he's a Scientologist. Do you believe in science? You're a Scientologist, G-Man. Which he doesn't, by the way. But I mean, that's my definition of Scientology. I get to do that, right, G-Man? According to what I believe, Scientology is somebody who believes science, right? So G-Man's a Scientologist. If he gets to redefine or define his terms and say what he wants for God, why would I not be able to? Now, I'm not going to do that, obviously, and I don't want to, accuse him of being a religion he's not. But he would lose his shit.
Yes, of course. Just make things up.
So
Well-
the title of this stream. So the stream's about that then.
Yeah.
No, not really. It's about
Well,
strawman, but
I mean,
but
it's one big thing.
kind
I
of-
mean,
Just
about all kinds of
curious,
stuff.
since the lull died down, or no, wait, that's not how you use that word. I'm sorry, I'm playing something, so I'm not completely focused.
generally speaking, we start off with a topic and things kind of like change. But I mean, we're on topic. I mean, I want people to know how not to have a straw man argument because they're just a waste of my time. If people want to have a discussion with me, they can come into my room. I don't block anybody from this room except for I have very, very small group of people, and I think 2 out of them are atheists. I know for 2 are atheists, maybe more. I can count them on my hand. Okay, so anybody can come in and have a conversation. They can ask me anything they
They're not
want.
true atheists.
No true atheist.
Yeah.
But G-Man doesn't know how to ask questions. He basically tells you what you believe, and at that point, I really don't have a conversation at that point with him. I don't want to.
I was asking about the title because I was especially curious. What is there to really say about straw man arguments? I mean, you either do or you don't. You either pay attention to what someone is saying and argue based on what they're saying, or you don't, and you're
Well, that was my
dishonest
point.
little shit.
That was the first thing that I said, right? But G-Man doesn't listen to what somebody has to say. We've all seen him tune out. We all see him. You can actually look at him, and you know he's not listening. In fact, during that
looking
conversation,
off camera,
he was calling
his name.
Dragnot. So I was like, after a while, I was like, you know what? I don't need to listen to him. I told him in the side chat. I told Drag, hey, I'm going to go get some coffee. I'll be back in like 5 or 6 minutes. Let me know if he ever gives me the evidence, because I was just the same old nonsense, right?
Yeah, he has no intention of listening, and then because it's funny, he rants and raves about people making straw man arguments because you'll hear him say this, but then he has no intention on actually listening to what, like, anything, and it's sad.
The
Like,
disconnect
it's
is real.
truly fucking sad that he does this stuff, but then he wants people to believe the shit that he's saying.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is, in that hangout prior, I had specifically told him what my position was. I was very explicit in it. I do not believe that you can believe in a God and still be an atheist. Where did he not grasp that was my actual position when I said it multiple times? That is my actual position, right?
He can't reevaluate his claims. He can't reevaluate what he thinks about anything. He has to kind of passively come on to a new conclusion, I guess you can say, on his own. Like, it's kind of one of those, you lead a horse to water, can't force him to drink sort of scenarios. That makes sense.
It does. It's just a little disconcerting. I mean, it's more annoying than anything else,
But I think the problem with the argument a lot of people have with G-Man on this whole God thing is he said, well, if someone says their dog is a god, then they're not an atheist. Technically, yeah, he's right. The question I would have asked him back is, do you think the pharaohs were gods? Because I don't.
See, I don't know. I don't even know he's even technically right. People say, well, people's money. God is somebody's money, right? Money is somebody's God. Like, to me, like Ken Hovind, his God is money, right? But he's already a theist. But if an atheist, loves money, then that's his God. That doesn't make him a theist. According to G-Man, it does. But that's not how I use the word God.
But that's a metaphorical use of the word God.
Of course it is.
It's the same way as you can say you worship your wife. Doesn't mean it means you treat her like a goddess. It doesn't mean she is a goddess.
He doesn't understand the difference, Druss.
Right.
He doesn't.
Except in the case of Drag's wife, who obviously is a goddess.
Well, Apology has pointed that out. G-Man literally believes if you worship something, that is a god. And to Drag here, his wife she's a goddess. But it's a metaphorical statement. I don't think Drag believes that she's a supernatural being, or well, maybe, I don't know. But
I believe, according to some of Drag's testimony, she has worked magic on.
I was going to say she's.
Yes.
I mean, maybe she's taken him to heaven a few times. You know what? I'll do it.
G-Man not understanding how language works.
It does go back to that. If you I challenge folks. Go ask G-Man the difference between something that's figurative and literal. Go ask him the difference between literal slavery and figurative slavery. He can't tell you the difference.
Yeah.
He does not know the difference.
I consider the Earth to be divine. Steve probably doesn't.
So you're a pagan.
Wouldn't that? Wait, are you being sarcastic?
No, he's a pagan.
No, I'm pagan.
Yeah.
Oh.
And by the way, I put the link.
Divine.
I put the link to the Great Debate community in the live chat. Where this is Hangout's not going to last much longer. In about a half hour, we're going to go to the Great Debate community page, and we're going to be having a hangout on math. So even if you don't like math, come on over and watch, join. It's going to be a little bit heavy. It is Calc 2 level stuff, and I barely remembering it myself, but I think I know it well enough to at least get my points across. And that's all I'm trying to see if I can be able to do. I want to see if at this point in my life I'm still able to explain something like this for a Taylor series, how to do a derivative of e to the x. And it's not.
I'd actually like to know about derivatives, considering I got a pre-calc class on the 21st.
Well, make sure you're watching it. It's in a half hour. Now, I will make sure that I point this out. This is not a formal, rigorous mathematical proof. In fact, it is circular the way I did it. I understand that. I have a friend who's a PhD in mathematics. He teaches this. He pointed that out. I even told him. I said, "Look, I know that it's circular, but I don't want to get into more detailed stuff using limits and integrals in order to define the coefficients properly to where a more formal paper would do it, or more formal proof."
But there's an important foundational question I need to ask you. Are you assuming that the laws of the universe are consistent in all places and all times? Wrong show.
Logic. Yeah. I
Hey,
Darwin's deity on this and made sure that the uniformity of nature has not changed.
Yeah. So I wonder if we could switch gears a little, because somebody recently wrote a blog post, like a recent guest that we had. He wrote a blog post kind of criticizing the GDC. I'm kind of annoyed by it and the comments that he's left. So I don't know if you guys.
Actually, can you hold off for like 30 seconds while I go do my business?
Yeah,
because I use a lot of coffee. So 30 seconds.
Talk about some kind of ideological echo chamber.
Just for the audience, he's going to go and make a hot drink. He's not going for a pee.
So I guess we'll have 30 seconds of dead air.
Do you know, I love the look on your face, Richard, when he said, Are you serious?
Wait, when did I say that?
When I said I was pagan.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I wasn't sure if I should, because I was gonna ask you. Well, wouldn't that mean that you're not an atheist? But then I realized that I wasn't sure if you're being serious.
That is true. Yeah, but it's one of these things. You say, I just, there are certain things with the whole theism thing. Is it's personal experience. I can't prove what I believe to you.
Yeah.
No more that you can prove something conceptual to me. And I'm cool with that.
Well, wouldn't things like there are certain concepts that have applicability in the real world, like maybe even you guys might object to this, but maybe mathematics.
Well, John, to go through the value of utility of what I believe.
Mathematics or logic, they would both be conceptual, and yet they're axiomatic, and you can prove them.
Yeah, but that's because what you're doing is you're looking at a framework of rules and definitions that are consistent within the concept that you're discussing, and that's not what you have with philosophy of any sort, whether it is natural philosophy, whether it is theistic philosophy. It's conceptual agreements upon terms. That you don't have that same level of framework. You have some basic kind of things. If it don't make sense, it probably ain't right, or otherwise known as the law of non-contradiction.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think that's where you have the difference. If I constructed a complete descriptive model of all my beliefs, we could have a mathematical level discussion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't.
Okay, Steve back.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy, he was in the abortion debate, and I actually posted his blog post in the GDC if anyone wants to look at it. He's basically complaining the whole time that in the GDC there were 10 people and he barely got a voice, and I was just really annoyed by it because he was saying that he didn't like the format and he'll never do a panel debate again. And what I told him in the comments section was that in a format like this, like in the GDC where there are 5 to 10 people at any time, you have to earn a voice. Like, people aren't just gonna want to hear what you have to say just because you're there. You have to say something interesting, and then and then be able to respond to objections and counterpoints and be pretty quick on your feet. And then people will respect you and want to, like, for example, I brought my friend Zach Lawson in on the presuppositional debate that we did. And nobody there even knew him. There were 8 other people there. There was James and Ned, and they're both pretty outspoken and good debaters, and they let him talk. He earned a voice by making intelligent comments and being respectful. So that was something that annoyed me, that he was basically
this on the GDC channel.
Yeah, it was.
What was it again?
The presuppositional debate. It was the first one that I did. Why Christians shouldn't use presuppositional.
Oh, okay. But what was his name though? The person you're referring to?
My friend who came in the debate.
No, the person who's complaining.
Oh, Evan. Oh, okay. So yeah, this one was in the abortion debate. The one that he's complaining about.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's basically complaining that he didn't have enough of a voice throughout the discussion, and it really annoyed me because it's like it's basically a different skill set. Because if you're in a formal debate, you have to have a good presentation, but if you're in like a panel debate, you need to be quick on your feet and be able to answer points like off the cuff.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you on all your points. But here's the reality. The great debate community has a lot of people. Okay, and you're never going to satisfy everybody. You're going to find people that don't like the format. You're going to find people that love it. Vast majority love it. 98% probably love the way the GDC is going. They like the format. No complaints. But you get about 1 or 2% that may not. It's statistically the way it's going to be. You can't please everybody. If some people don't, you try to address their criticisms, but you cannot fix everybody's problems. You just can't do it. So if he felt slighted, you try to do your best to say, well, let's see, maybe next time. I haven't watched it, so I don't really know. But I know you're a fair moderator. I would not expect you not to be.
Evan was on my side of the debate, so
yeah.
It can be frustrating sometimes, and I can see that. But I think in a way you are right. You've got to have a point to make, and the trouble, one of the things that annoys me most, when you have a lot of people in a room, is very rarely are people actually having a conversation. They're just blurting statements out to try and get their point across, rather than actually listening to what the other person is saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: there are certain people, like you said, that have earned a little more credibility to talk. I mean, when Hogtie speaks, most people listen. When Jade speaks, most people listen up to a point, and then we say, Jade, shut the fuck up. You got to, right? But when some people who are very knowledgeable talk and they have a very specific point to make and they're getting to it, we allow them a more leeway, right? But somebody else who doesn't make any sense, like Mr. Intelligent Design, he'll never get to a point. He doesn't get he doesn't get that kind of, I don't want to say privilege because it's not special privilege, but we don't afford him the continuation of his dialogue when he doesn't say anything worth listening to any longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there are basically 2 factors. Like the first thing is you don't even know this guy, so you don't know if he can keep up in the debate. And the second is if he's saying the same thing that like the main guys were saying, like Elijah, he was pretty much the main guy that I brought on, and he was making the same points, being I wouldn't want to say it like this, but maybe being a little more elegant. And so if you're just saying the same thing that the main players are saying, then you shouldn't really expect to get that much.
Was this Evan Phillips?
No, Minton.
Okay, because Evan Phillips is nothing free.
Evan's a super nice guy, and I like him a lot. So I don't want to sound like I'm slighting him, but I was just kind of annoyed by the post that he wrote.
Can you just move the camera a little bit more to your right, just so I can see the rest of your bookshelf?
No, I won't do that because every time I have my books like central, everyone makes fun of me for being pretentious.
No, actually, that's fine.
He's doing the Matt
Slick ruined it for
everyone. Books I haven't read, but they look cool.
Yeah, Matt Slick ruined that for
I was actually going to compliment you. That's actually quite a nice looking collection of history books.
Matt Slick would actually get up in the middle of a conversation and go retrieve books. Like he could say, you know what? It's one thing to say, you know what? I think you should read the book that I have back there. You know, it's such and such, such and such, and I can easily Google it because on my other screen, this dude will get up in the middle of a conversation and go retrieve this book and show it. I actually have the book, and it's like, okay, congratulations. Like I'm not like it is so pretentious, but yeah, sorry.
I think there's a thing, if you love books, you kind of know where your books are.
Yeah.
I mean, I can literally go to my bookshelves and I can just pull the book I want out because I know where they all are, and I have a lot of books.
Fiona just wrote this, and she's spot on because this was something that he was arguing. She says, "I remember G-Man using the argument that pagans believe that the planet is a goddess. Therefore, if you believe the planet exists, you're a theist." The step he missed out was you have to share the belief that the planet was a goddess. Exactly.
That's exactly the point I just made.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought you'd be appreciative of that, just because that's exactly what he was saying just a few seconds ago. If you believe that the planet is a goddess, the planet is a goddess, and I believe the planet exists, according to G-Man, I am now a theist or pagan. How does that work? There's some
sorry, Steve,
missing there somewhere.
That's not a club you belong to, I believe.
Oh, it's just mind-boggling.
Making a strawman argument isn't the end of the day, end of the world. Sorry. At the end of the day, it comes down to a person's willingness to reevaluate the claims of others. And so, if I say, "Oh well, you know what? I disagree with Ozzy, and I'm going to pick on him because I know he's watching and he's Canadian." I disagree with Ozzy. I think there are no objective morals. I think he is somewhat of a more realist, I believe. And so if I disagree with him and then it turns out that I'm wrong, well, my position that I made against him kind of falls apart. But if I continue arguing, even though he's said no, I don't think there are any, objective.
I can make a very short and very simple argument for objective morals, Drag. Yep, you have a certain amount of philosophy that you have gained through your experience in the army, yeah?
Right.
A sense of duty, a sense of honor, a sense of morality, a code that you adhere to, a code that you measure yourself by. Is it your code?
It is not. My code is a code that's shared amongst me and others.
Yes, and it's an objective standard that you all adhere to because it is defined.
Druss,
didn't you? Your definition.
Druss, didn't you just tell me that you can't prove a conceptual concept? Wouldn't that include morality?
Well, this is about agreement, probably rather than proof.
Okay.
That's a very good point, and damn you for it.
Yeah,
damn it when your words come back to bite you.
I guess I don't really understand though why agreement forms any sort of basis for truth. Like for example, if no humans existed, it would still be true that there are zero humans.
I just think it's something that, as a whole of society, there's a collective that we think something is true or not, right? It doesn't make it universally the case. But I think as a society, we hold something to be standard. Like, for example, help people out is kind of a truism that it benefits society. Now, is there some moral absolute reason why we have to go around helping people? No,
and that's not what I was claiming.
Okay, I wanted to focus.
As far as I'm concerned, the only reason
more on mathematics, because mathematics is a little more concrete. Because okay, if there are no humans, it would still be true that there's, I don't know, one planet Earth or something like that.
Sure.
So mathematics would still be valid even without I guess I'm asking Druss because he's the one that said that. What do you think, Druss?
Would there still be one planet if there's nobody? Well, by our definition, yes, there would be, but we would not be there to define it. So that's where I start to have a problem with that, because, as you say, maths is conceptual. It has a framework. It has a rules definition. And and the thing that makes it really interesting is technically we can rediscover maths. If we lost all of it, we potentially could come back to some of the same things. We know that you add up three sides of a triangle, it comes to 180 degrees. And that type of thing, whatever our measurement is we're using, we would still see that ratio aspect come back.
So, Druss, are you saying? I kind of agree with you for saying this, but are you kind of saying that if humans were never around, the concept of a planet wouldn't even have been formed? So it's meaningless, right? To say there's one planet is a meaningless statement at that point, because the concept of a planet would have never existed. Is that your argument? Because that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of where I'm coming from. But does it mean though that the ratio of pi, for instance, would be different without us? No, it wouldn't by our definition.
Yeah, if you hear this argument from Christians, they usually ask, okay, if there are no humans on Earth, would rape still be wrong? Well, rapes would still be wrong, but without humans, without minds, you cannot concept of rape. So it's kind of tricky to answer that question. I would like to ask Drag, because Drag had a very weird definition of straw man. If I maybe heard wrong, because I thought a straw man was that your opponent is shooting down an argument that you wasn't arguing for.
But yeah, if I try and attack a position that somebody doesn't hold, so let's say if I think you're a flat earther and your position is for a round earth, you know, that's not your position.
Yeah, like if I say like, hey, Dragnut, you know, I know you're a staunch Trump supporter. Let me explain to you why he's doing pretty shitty right now. That would be a straw man, because I don't think that's actually Dragnut's position.
It's a bit like when Darth Dawkins goes from, is there any causality? Oh, therefore if you don't agree with that, you must live in a purely chance universe kind of thing, where no one is arguing for a chance universe, yet he spends a lot of time around that.
Always have these false dichotomies.
But you know, Dross, just take I think oh my God, what's his name again? I think his name is John Lennox. Isn't that a pretty?
The mathematician.
Yeah. So there are yes, it is. There are some different degrees of straw man. I mean, he uses a straw man that is kind of tricky to catch on, because he says that Richard Dawkins asked him who created God. And then he says, well, there are no created gods. We used to believe in them. Now we call them idols. And then he says, if Richard Dawkins has objections with created gods, he could have written a far shorter book. But that wasn't the actual argument, because Richard Dawkins is asking, okay, the Christian worldview, there has to be a causality in everything. Okay, and if there has to be causality between everything, you know,
I don't follow that though. I don't agree with that. I don't think everything has to have a cause. But that's again my position. Someone wants to ask me, Steve, do you think everything has to have a cause? No, not necessarily true. I can think of cases in science where there's not a cause for an effect on the quantum level, right?
But most Christians hold the view that there must be a cause. Yeah. So and if there must be a cause, then of course God must have been created to also, and that is what Richard Dawkins is asking.
But evidence is
no. The view is not that everything must have a cause. The Christian worldview does not state that everything must have a cause.
No, he said that's not what he said. He said that
everything that begins to exist.
Yes.
Well, he didn't say it was a Christian worldview. He just said that most Christians think that. But here's it's even more simple than that. I think most people will say that they probably subscribe to the principle of sufficient reason, right? I mean, if you really want to boil it down to it, does everything have a reason?
Yeah.
And I think that everything does have a reason. That doesn't necessarily mean it has a cause, but things have a reason. But how basal can you go on it? When you're giving an explanation for something, then you have to give an explanation of the explanation. You have to give an explanation of the explanation. There's nuances upon nuances and infinite regression that you start getting into, right? But I do believe for the most part in the principle of sufficient reason, but that does not necessarily mean that everything has to have a cause. At least
I agree. Wait, Steve, so you affirm the principle of sufficient reason?
I think I probably do hold to it, but I'm not staunchly on that. I mean, I can see arguments either way. So I'm again one of those things that I'm kind of iffy on, right? But I'm not against somebody. Yeah, I mean, do you hold to the principle of sufficient reason?
Me? Yeah. We should do it. We should do a hangout on it sometime.
So why must the buck stop with God?
It doesn't. It does not.
That's the first cause.
Not an exception to the principle of sufficient reason. We do think that there's an explanation for God's existence, which is that He exists necessarily.
Yeah, that's a good point. God's existence, according to some Christians, is a necessary condition. He cannot.
You nearly said necessary evil, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, that would have been a metaphor. Well, a figure of speech, so to speak, right? It's necessary evil in this particular case doesn't mean he's evil, but
yeah, a requirement.
Yeah. But anyways, you know, I like to.
Sorry, just very quickly. When you say sufficient reason, could you just give me a quick explanation of that? Because I'm not sure I understand it.
The principle of sufficient reason basically just means that everything has a reason for something else. I mean, Richard, can you give more detail on it?
Yeah, as he was asking, I brought up this resource from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. You guys can look that up. Just Google the principle of sufficient reason, and that'll be the first one that comes up. I'll just read this introduction. It's only a paragraph. The principle of sufficient reason is a powerful and controversial philosophical principle stipulating that everything must have a reason, cause, or ground. The simple demand for thoroughgoing intelligibility yields some of the boldest and most challenging theses in the history of philosophy. In this century, we will be explaining the principle and then turn to the history of the debate around it. So, yeah, there's...
See, but I don't know if it has to have a cause. See, I understand what how they use it.
Okay, no, I'm on point now.
Okay, because I'm not disagreeing with what they're saying. When I say cause, they're using these things synonymously, right? But
I think that would be... No, I think that would be like a well, then we'd just be arguing their grammar, but I think cause would be a subset of reason.
Okay. Yeah. That I can go with. Yeah, and also, you know, there was an argument that people were putting out not too long ago. Which argument was it? Alex Malpass did a wonderful refutation on it, on use of reason, and one of the things, you know, one of the horns on it was that, you know, you're not even subscribing to the principle of sufficient reason. But what was that argument? It was a very nuanced argument that was really good that Matt Slick uses. Does anybody remember off the top of their head? Or I'd have to go back, and it's a really, really awesome argument, actually. Or well, refutation that Alex had was spot on, awesome. But I don't remember the name of the argument. I kind of remember the horns of it, but it was called the.
Are you talking about his justification of God, the P equals P, not P thing? And
no, it wasn't that. It was Oh, come on!
Munchausen's trilemma. That was another one. I know you had some issues.
It's part of it. Well, it boils down to different horns. But what was the name of that argument? Contingency argument from contingency.
Yes.
Yeah. So the argument from contingency, the way Alex Malpass broke it down on use of reason was beautiful. But that goes into the principle of sufficient reason. But that's a very, very, to me, nuanced argument, not conceptually easy to grasp. As a matter of fact, I don't think I even understood it until I read Alex's blog on it, because he explained it exceptionally well. But the argument from contingency is you know, it's arguing that God is necessity, you know, God's a necessary being, right? And do you believe that God had to create the universe the way it is right now, Richard? I mean, was there any other way he could have done it? Okay.
No, he could have created it different.
Because, you know, there's some arguments.
Otherwise it wouldn't be contingent.
Yeah, right. It would be necessary.
Can I just ask Richard something? Because I find it kind of hard, because, and maybe I'm phrasing it wrong, because I'm still under the influence that Christians believe that everything has to have a beginning. That the universe was created, the humans was created, our planet was created, our stars, the air, everything has to be created. Everything has to be. I said cause earlier. Perhaps I was wrong, but the objection that I have, and that Richard Dawkins has, that there are this set of things that doesn't, according to Christians, have to have a beginning, and that kind of set of things is God. And that isn't that kind of weird that everything has to have a beginning, but God doesn't?
Yeah, that's a common misunderstanding of, like, I wouldn't be faulting you for it, because it is a pretty common misunderstanding, but you just have to listen to the nuances of the argument and what we're saying, because I wouldn't say, and Christians I know wouldn't say, that everything has to be created. Like that would, we're talking about straw men here. That would be a pretty significant straw man of say the Kalam cosmological argument. So if you look at academic literature like William Lane Craig's dissertation on the Kalam, it begins with the premise that everything that begins to exist has a cause, and that's generally how that argument is phrased. It's not everything has a cause or everything is created.
Yeah, Yes, I do understand that he added the word begins to exist, so he can avoid the God created part. I'm well aware of that.
Added? Okay, well then can you give me some sort of, I don't know, consensus that where all Christians were arguing like that everything has, because, you know, this was in like the 1970s that he wrote this dissertation. So I don't know where you'd be getting that information.
If I recall correctly, wasn't the original argument called
the temporal and the non-temporal?
Hang on.
Sorry.
Anis?
If I recall correctly, wasn't the original argument the things that exist have a cause called the cosmological argument, and the Kalam cosmological argument is the one that added the begins part?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I see. I see. I get what you're saying. The cosmological argument would be related to what Steve was just talking about, which is the contingency argument. That would be the principle of relate to the principle of sufficient reason, which would say that everything that exists must have an explanation or a reason. That's not to say that it has a cause in that it's temporal or finite in the past. It's just to say that it has an explanation of its existence, and God would.
But as I said before, I may be phrasing it wrong. But even if you use the explanation part, well, why doesn't God have to have an explanation then?
He does.
Well, that's the thing. Hang on.
Just because he has existed forever, that is not an explanation.
Evidence. Which evidence is trying to say is he's trying to imply that there's a special pleading going on, and then Richard's trying to say, though, there is an explanation for God, but that doesn't mean that God has a cause, right? God is the first cause or the unmoved mover, but there's still an explanation that you would say that of his existence, right, Richard? Is that how you're talking?
Yeah, and it's not evidence. I'm not sure your name. I only see evidence there. It's not that he existed forever. I agree that wouldn't be a cause. Like you couldn't say, you guys as atheists couldn't say that the eternal universe doesn't, or that's a sufficient explanation for the universe that it's eternal. I agree with that. But what you could say is that the universe is necessary in its existence, and you could argue that route. And we would say the same sort of thing about God, that God is necessary in his existence.
The only thing I really have to say on this is that, as far as I'm concerned, there doesn't actually have to be a reason or explanation for anything. It's just that typically when we observe the way that reality interacts, we can find these sort of things that happened prior, or these little details about them that sort of explain them, but they don't have to, is my contention. They just typically do, and that's what you look for.
If things don't have to have an explanation, then maybe you can clarify for me, what would be the point of scientific pursuits? Because the whole project of science is based on this idea that things have an explanation. And for example, let's think of the debate between creationism and naturalism or whatever, because the naturalists will often say things like, we don't know. We're still looking for an explanation. But with what you just said, you could just say, well, no, there is no explanation, and there's no.
I didn't say that there. My point is that there doesn't necessarily have to be one, and I said, though, that typically there is one, and we look for those because those are useful. I don't know if you caught that, but I did add that.
Well, I get that, but
there's a difference between searching for the truth and actually be able to finding the truth. I don't follow the necessary part either, because if you're correct to say that God is necessary, first of all, which God? But okay, and then the Big Bang is also necessary. But I mean, okay, both the Big Bang or
the Big Bang is necessary. The universe couldn't have started in any other way.
It could, but you cannot say that.
Then it's not necessary.
It's contingent.
But you said it. You said that matter. Some atheists say that matter is necessary.
Yeah, I said you could argue that route. I didn't say that was true.
How the hell can you do that? If you have God is necessary or matter is necessary, both can't be necessary. That's impossible.
No, I agree. I was just drawing a parallel here. I was saying you guys could take this route and argue like this.
No. Well, first you need to clarify your terms. Necessary just means that it has to exist in all possible modal realities.
Yes.
Okay? That's what necessary means in philosophy. So it has to exist in every possible world. And then contingent would be something that's not necessarily necessary, that's based upon something else, right? And then a contradiction cannot exist in any multi-ontological reality. So that's what they mean. That's what they're meaning here by necessity. It could be no other way. But we got to wrap this up. We have another hangout here. So I tell you what, Richard, this is a great topic for you to moderate, and after the math thing.
I might do it tonight.
Yeah, that's great. Matter of fact, I would love if you got into the contingency argument. I'm going to brush myself up on it again. If you want to use Alex's Malpass's use of reason, because again, he did a masterful job of explaining it. But
I'll look it up.
I think this is a topic is fun. I think this is interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you want to continue that on the GDC, great. But I do need to start this math thing because I had told people that we would.
Well, no one's going to watch it anyway.
I had 4 people last time, so hush.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4.
Well, it was me. Actually, it was me, Drag, Midnight, Sparkles, and EO. That was our 4.
It was
but anyways,
basic maths.
It looks like you have General now, so he might join that.
Yeah, General. Well, I don't think so. General, it's like late for you. You should be in bed.
No, General stays up all night.
General, are you there? Oh, that's not.
Yeah,
you guys
General.
in the hangout?
Yeah.
That's not. Is that General?
Yeah, that's right.
What time is it, dude?
I had like a 3-hour nap. It's like 3 in the morning.
You're worse than me. I've actually been sleeping well. I'm not going to tell you guys about my diet yet. I'll tell you guys tomorrow. But since I've been like
atheism one.
Exercising and eating right.
I did the video like 3 hours ago.
I've been sleeping so much better, and it's been nice actually for a change. But anyways,
I don't know what it is, but
well, you're just a Christian. That's why Christians.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Evidence, I'll watch your videos tonight. I'm sorry that I don't get your notifications. I don't know why. I think maybe I have to start watching your videos more, and then I'll get notifications. I do have the bell check, but I'll put the link for your video, your channel in the video description at some point because we need to promote your channel. It needs to be a lot higher. The whole point of the Great Debate is get everybody's channel's views up. So when people saying Steve's doing this for views, well, yeah, kind of. I mean, like Drag said, we like to have these discussions, but we also like to have people learn from it and discuss things. It's a community type thing. I don't know why that doesn't make sense to people. That's why we're here.
Because they're retarded.
And Richard made me think about a lot of things right now that I will search online, and then I will read some books.
Hey, if you want to, you should try to get into the GDC that I do later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Join us for that particular hangout. But the hangout we're going to be having next, it's on the Great Debate community page. The link, again, I'll put in the video description. If you want to follow us over, and I'll also put in the live feed. A lot of people still haven't followed us over there. It only has like 400 subscribers or something like that. So we need to get more.
Sub now. Go
sub.
Link it's in there. Go sub now. Do it.
But we're going to be talking about Calculus 2. We're going to be talking about Taylor series, Maclaurin series, derivatives, and again, it's basically to see if I could just explain to people this. So don't take it for gospel. I'm not a mathematician. This is old stuff for me. So, but it's going to be fun, and we're going to have EO join us, and hopefully General will. So follow us over. And there you go. Anybody want to? Well, you know what? I always
I just want to say,
Josh, you get the last word.
No, Richard gets the last word because he asked for it.
No,
Richard, thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Hog tie.
Total pleasure.
Too late.
And I will hopefully catch up later.
Yeah, definitely.
See you all, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Evidence. Yeah, Evidence is awesome. I really like his channel, and I don't know why I'm not getting his notifications.
I used to.
Put a shout out. Did you want to say something to Evidence before he left, Hog tie?
He's gone.
He's gone.
I know, and I was scrambling. I didn't even grab my headphones. I just flipped the laptop open, and I heard him say he was leaving. He's awesome, whatever. Give me a few minutes. Let me look for my thing here.
Hold on for a second, Hawkeye.
Hold on for what?
You want to talk to Evidence?
No. Well, I'm gonna leave again. Let me look for my thing. Just pretend I'm not here.
We usually do that.
I'm calling him right now. I'm telling him to come back in.
There's a thing you guys were talking about earlier that I wanted to add a quick thought to, but I never got the chance because for once I'm not being an overly talkative asshole. And it was.
Don't take my job.
It was regarding morality. The only place that I think popular opinion has any place in is in things that are subjective and relative to humans. So popularity only matters when, for example, with morality, because morality is about how humans, or at least sentient life in general, but I'm going to stick with humans for now, how humans want to behave. So if everyone agrees, then the human interactions are smooth. Because it's what everyone wants.
We need to get
the time I would think that popularity matters.
You were itching to make that stupid point.
yes,
I was. I'm just kidding.
Point.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, think about that point. Hog tie, you're fanboying, so you want to like.
I like this guy.
Or are you talking behind my back, you fucking bastards?
Exactly.
I told you. I didn't tell you. I told you.
Like you evidence. That wasn't you, so don't worry.
I'm sorry.
Almost
I'm just kidding.
forgot I had evidence on Skype, so I was like, "Oh wait, Hogtie's trying to get your attention." Hey.
Oh my God! I'm getting roasted by Hogtie.
Yeah, he's got a bone to pick with you. He said all your videos suck.
Oh my God, I love Hogtie. I remember when he had a debate with Matt Slick, and Matt Slick got so tired because Hogtie wouldn't fall into his script. And then Hogtie said, "Do you need a nap?" It was so fucking awesome. And Matt Slick was...
Sounds like Hogtie. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of love fest. Hogtie, what is he did he say he's going to be right back, or... We're gonna have to postpone this math thing.
Okay, so overtime, folks.
Sorry,
overtime for Hogtie, so he can fanboy for evidence.
Oh, I'm getting roasted by Hogtie. You have to.
He loves you.
No, he doesn't.
He said,
"Can I get a link to Evidence's channel? I don't see it anywhere."
I can post it. I can post it here.
Every E is a 3.
Hi, Lemise. Everybody, Lemise is in live chat. Wave hi to her. She's
Hey, Lemise.
Hello. I'm waving
food
to
scientist.
even though my camera's not on.
She's a hot food scientist.
You wave with his fire.
So does that mean she doesn't do cold salads?
Yeah, she's just hot. She's a hot plate.
Drax, that wasn't as dirty as I may have meant it to be.
Clearly,
I took it that way.
Okay. Where is Hogtie?
Posted my link posted the link to my channel in the side chat there. So
all right, 4 minutes.
I'm not turning on my webcam, so this is the closest I can come to waving.
I gave my webcam to my son, so I don't have to be visible.
That's nice.
We'll start. We'll do the math hangout at about 12:15, 12:30. I'm really looking forward to it. I really want to see if I can actually.
Well, you have no content. Remember, all we do is talk about the funnies. We don't actually cover.
I have not talked
science.
about this stuff for ages. I mean, I haven't done math for ages. So if I can pull this off, I'm going to be actually pretty impressed with myself.
Hey, I resent that remark. I also make fun of flat earthers.
I will bet that I turn on the math hangout and I hear a bunch of stuff about G-Men and Kent Hovind.
We're not going to be talking about anything with the GDC. It's strictly math.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, G-Man's invited, and so any of them. I mean, matter of fact, I think Drag is
but then it's like
plans to give a link to all of them and say, "Hey, you want to come learn something?"
Perhaps true empiricism is better on math. I think.
Yeah, because you need, in order to get an accurate statistical model, you need every single person alive to be polled.
I'd be more scared if Hogtie's there, because Hogtie would be like
Hogtie loves those hangouts though.
I know, but he's pedantic because he's so
or perhaps Hovind. Apparently, starlight from stars 50 billion years away can reach us in 6,000 years. So that is it's stretched. But okay, King Crocodile, you have all this evidence. You're a scientist, but it says 17 times in the scripture that God stretched the heavens.
You know how many times I want to say,
bitch,
I don't care?
Hey, evidence. When you make a video, do you link it in the GDC? Because I haven't even seen that. Why don't you?
No, I don't link it in the GDC.
Why?
Because I'm afraid to get banned.
Why
no, I don't know. Are you supposed to do that?
Yes, you're supposed to. That's how people know that you have a video out.
No, or they are subscribed.
No, because YouTube is not notifying people of certain channels if there's a lot of conditions going there. I am subscribed to you. I have the bell on. I didn't get a notification.
I didn't either. I got one last week. I think you made a video
last week or the week prior. Out. And if
I have not gotten anything.
And what's that evidence? If you want, I don't. Matter of fact, I hope you do. Go to the Great Debate Community webpage. I'll make you an editor or an author. You can upload your videos there for people to go check them out too. When you come up with a new one. That's the Great Debate Community Network. If you're in the network,
thank you.
You get access to that page and everything else. The only thing I ask is you put a link for the Great Debate Community in your video. That's it. And I know you will. So yeah,
you have my Skype, right?
I think I do, but just in case, put it again.
Okay, don't let Steve talk you into signing up for stuff. Wait until you see what the options are. There's a new network.
Read the
network starting up.
Let's see what around.
$200
If you're in the Great Debate Community Network, yes, that's the whole point of the Great Debate Community webpage is to put your videos on there so people know when they're out.
There is
go subscribe to the page. By the way, the Great Debate Community webpage, you need to go subscribe to that. Got it?
Yeah, my mail on Skype,
Yeah, so, I'm pretty sure I have it. I'll copy it right now. So anyways, Hogtie, do you want to?
With me?
Yeah, well, first I got to go back to this. So she's a hot food scientist.
Yes.
In terms of great names for lady jobs, I do know a woman who's the foreman of a concrete forming crew, and so they stand up the forms, they pour concrete, put in rebar, form concrete, pour the concrete in, and then after it cures, they got to come back and strip the forms. And she will often use the expression, "Well, I'll be stripping on the weekend."
Awesome.
And straight face, yeah. I also know Canada's leading self-described swallowing expert. Otto Learned.
Okay, I've known a few of those.
Yeah. No, she's
oh my God.
A well-paid otolaryngologist. What the hell's that field called? But,
if only her surname was Spitz.
Oh. Oh, geez. And I was when I was looking for the headphones, I thought of a fourth one, and now I forgot it. I'll remember, and I'll just interrupt somebody.
You're on a roll.
No, I just derivative of dirty.
I'm sorry. I've got a really bad sense of humor this evening.
Oh, I know. Yeah, someone does. I should have done this one first. It's not as funny as stripping. Someone who does modeling, and she always talk about, I'll be modeling all Thursday and Friday, and it refers to computer modeling. But that wasn't as funny as the swallowing. Anyway, no, Evidence, you have great stuff on there. I love your channel. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say. And then I jumped in and I typed it in the side chat, but it was like a second before you dropped out of the call. So.
Oh.
That's all I had. I wasn't going to complain. I like the style. I like the, you'll make a video and you'll say, hi, everybody. So it turns out that G-Man's being stupid, and I'm just going to play a clip of him.
So Hogtie, what's the fourth derivative called again? What's the fourth derivative called?
Oh, the jerk? Yeah.
No, the fourth derivative.
Well, the fourth?
Jerk is third.
Is it spit or swallow? Oh, my God, I should remember this.
Snap. Or
snap.
Jounce.
Snap. Yeah.
Snap.
4, 5, and 6, right? 4, 5, and 6 are snap, crackle, pop. Yeah.
People, these mathematicians have such crazy things.
You're coming
I
to
didn't
the
know
math
that. I
hangout,
didn't know
right?
that until just about 6.
So you're gonna watch the math hangout we're gonna have here in a few minutes? Are you gonna join us?
If I can. Oh, actually, it's this afternoon. And yeah, probably.
It's like 5 minutes.
Yeah, this next week is going to be awfully busy for stuff, but which is too bad. I have some neat things I wanted to do sort of online, but this next week's going to be a lot of traveling. But today, I can at least tune in, if not.
Yeah, listen and join in. And then I'm going to be asking what other people want maybe to have knowledge on, or what we can talk about. So, but I'm not gonna lie, this is going to be probably a long hangout. I didn't realize how much intricacy this is going to involve, so I don't even know how long this is going to take. It may take considerably amount of time. It may take a half hour, an hour to get through this. So I don't know.
Why did you decide to have a hangout on math?
Because people have been asking about it, and General Han Solo was going to do the series on it, and I had actually made a joke on the Great Debate that people didn't get. So I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I can explain it to them this way. Hogtie, what's the definition of insanity?
Well, the classic coffee mug version is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Taking the derivative of e to the x over and over again and expecting different results.
Oh, that's good.
that was my joke. I came up with that. Matter of fact,
I like that.
My friend of mine who teaches math in long, I told him he can steal it. He liked that joke. His wife was like, "Oh, he won't shut up about it." So that was my joke. Steal it at will. But I thought it was funny. But people didn't get it. Some people didn't get it. So that's how it all came to be.
It's a bit like how sad when I was talking about Maxwell and Rational Theist had never heard of him.
Well, that's why I think General might be talking. I mean, we need him to actually. I want him to do Maxwell's equations, and I also want him to do Einstein's field equation. That's going to be a little bit further down the line. But we on the Great Debate Community channel. It's going to be educational as well. So we want people, if you have a knowledge about a certain topic in science, come in, spend an hour or something just doing a presentation on it, explaining something. Math is great, but it could be other subjects as well. But I think math right now, everybody needs a kind of like some tutelage in it, right? And I haven't had math in 25 years, so this is like great for me. But anyways, guys, let's end this.
GDC expands to a free college.
Go to the next con. Yeah, go to the next Khan Academy.
No, it's just called the GDC. It's the Great Debate College.
Yeah. We have no video. We have no content according to like G-Man. We don't educate on anything, and yet
can't spell content.
Yes. So
I would
feel like G-Man wasn't paying attention.
By the way, Nestle had said evolution. Yes, Nestle, you can do evolution on the GDC.
Evolution in DNA through the GDC.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a basic biology education like most people have. But some of the nuances and details for me have been brilliant.
Yeah, like I said, if Nestle wants to do a hangout on evolution to teach things, that's great too. A layperson could do it as well. If somebody says, you know what, I don't know crap about this, but I'm going to go learn it, and I'm going to be able to see if I can explain it. I have no problem with them running a hangout that way, because this is we're not experts, right? Or some of us are, but I'm not. But back in the military, the whole point of learning something was for your ability to go in, be exposed to something you have no idea what the hell is going on, be able to learn it, regurgitate it, understand it, and train somebody else on it.
Mm.
And I'm
the
sure
thing that
I had to do that countless times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Many
The thing that I
CLS
suffer
classes.
with though is the lack of ability to really to be able to sort of fact check everything. That's something I need to get better
Well,
at.
that's
I'm
why you have
hoping
other people
to
that
get
watch
better
it.
at researching in college.
But Annie, that's why you have other people. People are going to be fact checking me as I do this, right? And if I stumble and I'm confused and whatever, they're going to be like, okay, let's get us back online. EO is going to be there. So, I mean, please don't take my word as gospel. I'm not a mathematician, right? But I want people to see that a layperson can do this stuff, right? And if you think you can learn something and be able to train somebody on it, go for it. Go for it. I think that's fabulous, to be honest with you. So, last word.
Don't do that. Don't. No, yeah. Can I do a little? Because I missed the whole thing. And I'm spending the morning trying to get caught up on the wackiness from last night, and it gave me an idea for a video that I'll never do. But if I can make the point now, it would sort of at least let me get it off my chest, and I'll be able to sleep.
Sure.
Okay. And I started brewing on this thing a couple of weeks ago when I had a lengthy back and forth on some old thread on Google Plus with that Ernie Drever. The Drury Ernie.
Oh God, the guy with the black background and the small white text.
Yeah. And I'll say of Ernie.
The original false flagger in our community.
What's that?
One of the original false flaggers.
Oh yeah. Well, he's I don't know him that well, but from what I've seen of him, I think he at least, I wouldn't describe him as a liar. He tries to be honest to his character, which isn't necessarily a compliment, because he's a bitter, hateful person, as many of the radical evangelicals are, and he has no ability to discern fact from fiction. So when he's being honest, he's simply just repeating his mistaken beliefs. But whatever, best I can say for him. But what the dispute was about, actually, I can't remember what the part of what the frustrating part of the dispute was. We were talking about something in that thread, and he came in and made a point that was on point, and I said something that was in response to that point, and then he starts launching into, oh well, Richard Dawkins believes that life was seeded here by aliens, and I'm like, well, that's not on point even remotely, but sure, let's address that. And every my post that came from that was always about how, it's interesting how you're dodging the actual topic of this thing by going to think about Richard Dawkins. And my main theme there was, look, I don't really care what Richard Dawkins says about life on other planets. He's not my mother, but that's not what he said anyway. And even if he did, I don't care, because he's not my mother. Was sort of the theme of it. But he kept, not to retell the whole story, because I know you guys know where this came from. This came from the Ben Stein's movie, the very clearly dishonestly edited interview portion with Richard Dawkins. Potholer has two great videos on how to spot weird cuts in things. So the answers don't match the questions.
Frankenstein cuts.
Yeah, and this is a great example of it. So if you really want to know if Richard Dawkins believes that life was seeded here by aliens, if you care, you don't have to follow what Richard Dawkins believes, but if you at least want to be an honest person and come to understand what Richard Dawkins actually believes, so that when you say, well, Richard Dawkins believes this, you're actually telling the truth. So if you're the sort of person that cares about telling the truth about other people, that is not bearing false witness, you can check out Potholer's video on it. You can check out any of the number of interviews that Richard Dawkins has given where he gives his actual opinion. And this was the point I was trying to make to Ernie in this thread, that it really shows your weakness in your complete lack of ability to address what Richard Dawkins actually believes, because you fabricate for him the whole cloth, this other belief that you've got any number of interviews with Richard Dawkins where he says his actual position on what he thinks is the origin of life on Earth, and you've got this one demonstrably dishonestly edited clip where the words can be interpreted to mean something else. I don't even think that's a straw man. I think when you do that, that's not even really a straw man, because a straw man is when you sort of give something that kind of looks like your opponent's argument, but you weaken it in critical ways so it's easily defeated. But what do you do when you take a quote mine and you actually fabricate entirely your opponent's position, in spite of the wealth of statements from your opponent that, this is what I believe, this is what I believe. It's a sort of needle in a haystack type of research, where they don't even find the needle. They just claim that they found this thing, and even though there's this wealth of information, it means something else. So this had kind of gone back and forth. That's the thing that I was trying to drive home in that thread was how weak you appear when you have to fabricate, not just straw man, but outright fabricate the other person's position so that you can say, well, I've defeated that person. You haven't defeated their argument. You've refuted the person because you've just made up a ridiculous thing that you believe that they believe, even in spite of all the evidence against it. And part of why this comes up in my head, again, is this thing last night, where it doesn't matter how many times, over how many weeks, and how many different hangouts, Steve has said, no, if you believe in a God, then you're not an atheist. An atheist means you don't believe in God. That's my position. Doesn't matter how many times you say that, Steve. Because G-Man has a clip where if he, I think he played the clip like 2 or 3 times in that thing last night. And it's not even you saying the thing he says you're saying. He comes up with an interpretation of it that means, well, if you interpret this the way G-Man interprets it, that's Steve saying that you can believe in a God and still be an atheist. And he has to say that in spite of the wealth of times that Steve has said exactly the opposite.
But before that, remember the hangout that I had before that that spawned all of this, where he called me on 2 separate occasions. The first time when Bionic Dance herself came into the hangout and said, no, I did not issue him a debate challenge. And then he calls me and says, oh, well, I guess I misinterpreted that. And in nowhere does she actually say anything about a debate. She simply said she discussed the topic with people who are up to par on the knowledge from the scientific consensus or something to that effect. But after that, someone made a tongue-in-cheek reference to, I believe it was my family. And I'm trying to remember exactly what the word was. Or someone asked me how my wife was doing. And so he then called me and said, people are in there saying that something about I have a wife and I don't appreciate this slander, and I'm like, no one said anything about you having a wife, G-Man. And it's like it's that if those 2 instances within the same hangout really show you that he's not listening to anything anyone's saying. He's picking up on certain words and then he fabricates this scenario. And so whatever he's fabricated, he then tricks himself into believing that this is reality and runs with it and will not listen to anyone.
What happened exactly? Because I mean, I the reason I started talking about, I was asking Drag about his family is because the conversation was done. I asked him for evidence. He didn't provide it.
No, Steve, that was the 3rd time. I'm sorry. No. That was during the actual discussion he did that. I'm sorry. No, you just mentioned the 3rd time because during the hangout itself, the discussion between you two, you say, well, I don't have anything else to say. Drag, how's your family? Right. He then responds, oh, now Steve is talking about your family.
Yeah.
And so
I was.
But no, he meant to say in a negative way, in some type of
pejorative type of way.
Yeah, in a pejorative way. Oh, so he's bringing your family into it. He didn't want to do that.
That clearly was the case.
And it's like, that's just the 3rd time. For the 3rd time in one day, he managed to mangle what someone said, and this whole hangout was about that.
There's something about this radical evangelicalism that either attracts or creates people with this weird ability to latch on to something that's already consistent with their existing beliefs about how awful everybody else is, and then it just gels and sets hard like concrete in seconds, and you simply can never shake it from them. As you're saying the thing about mentioning someone's family, it reminds me, and I think Steve, you've got the video up on your channel of was it the fastest was it the world record speed of like destroying a hangout?
Yeah, that was Darwin's deity, and I think it was like 7.5 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, well, partway through that, I'm thinking 6.5, but whatever. Yeah. I'm not going to say, I'm open to being corrected on that, like unlike some people.
I don't remember my video, and I don't even remember it. It was pretty quick, and they destroyed it.
There's a point in there about 3/4 of the way through where somebody had come in the room, and Didi had asked someone in the room something like, have you stopped trolling me or something like that? And I opened my mic and I said one simple sentence. I said, have you stopped beating your wife? And closed my mic. That's all I said. And then there was all this drama that blew up because of it, because one of the other guys in the room ended up putting me on ignore. And of course, it's very disruptive to the conversation. And what's his name? Van was in there saying, like, look, we got a problem now because when somebody blocks somebody, it disrupts the whole conversation. Everything just went off the rails. But this guy he has no business bringing up that guy's wife. That's just not cool. You can't bring up someone's wife.
I
say to him, no, he said, You said like that's you stop being your wife. It's an expression. It's not.
I got to tell you, even though that's my video, that is one of my favorite videos. I really love that video.
Nice. It's nice. It's punchy. It's short. The drama launches up really quick, and it's so one-sided.
If you guys have not watched, because we have a lot of new people to my channel, and I have fun inviting the videos. So there's no way they've gone through them all. But if you haven't not seen this video, go watch it. It's called Darwin Deity Destroys a Hangout in under like 6.5 minutes or in record time. It's a short video, literally 6 or 7 minutes, but it is awesome because the masterful technique that Darwin's used to disrupt and destroy this hangout was unparalleled by anyone else. It was masterful.
Just so you guys know, the full title, I found it myself. Darwin's Deity destroys a hangout in less than 7 minutes. ... A new record. And I don't think it's been beat yet. I don't think it's been beat. And I sent a link into the in Hangout side chat, and it'll probably get screwed up, but someone else can probably send it in the actual live stream. Yep, you got it, Hogtie.
Some my older stuff, right? And I have a lot of original videos too. And G-Man's like, "Oh, Steve doesn't put out any content. Do you not see the one I put out on Orphan Red, debunking her? The ones I put out on Ronnie, that's my own content. I've had some on Tommy Hall. I just don't understand these people's reality.
I wish I had more time for content. The other one. So I was listening to some of this stuff from last night. I was in that hangout yesterday, and then I said, "Look, I got to get on with my life," and then I unplugged, right? And I missed, and like Bionic Dance was in there, and it's too bad. I kind of want to say hi to her again. She was one of my first. She's a neat gal. I mean, I've known her for years. She was one of my first 20 subscribers, and I was one of her first 20 subscribers. And we used to correspond an awful lot. And it was just a typical thing about, oh, it's fun making these videos, and I wonder if anyone will ever watch them, So
back when you were a nobody?
Yeah.
Now you're just like a bigger nobody.
Yeah, we were both. Yeah, I know. Well, I haven't got the sub count. I don't. Again, once I've started losing channels,
you got the name recognition, which is kind of weird. Yeah, you have the name rec though. So.
Well, yeah, but as in part, like I say, I don't have. I don't even think I've crossed 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm less than 1,000. It might be a little.
I don't see how. Fiona hasn't either, and I don't get that either. How do you guys have not had at least 1,000?
Because the way to get subscribers is produce regular content. Have a place that people can go to that when they're like, oh, I want to check out YouTube. If you're busy, or if you're bored on a Thursday afternoon, you want to see something new, you don't go to Hogtie's channel because I hardly ever put up content. Once every 2 months I'll do a hangout. So I don't really draw subscribers that way, and that's fine. I mean, my other channels were a little more satisfying, but so once the false flagging thing got out of hand, you could lose a channel too easily. I just got really frustrated with it. And of course, my kids were very young then, so you sort of say, well, it's very easy to refocus. But
did you happen to see the shout out from the Living Dinosaur? Because I know you've been away, but did you watch that?
Yeah, I don't know if I do get notifications for it's weird how YouTube picks which channels you'll get notifications for. I do get Living Dinosaur notifications, but I don't get them from Podholder. I keep saying Podholder. I find that so funny. From Podholder or Aaron Raw. They put up a video. It'll go by for weeks. I won't even notice it.
But don't you think it's pretty awesome that I got a shout out from somebody like the Living Dinosaur? I mean, that to me, I'm honored, right? Because he's a legend.
Yeah, he's good. I've actually never talked with him.
Nice.
Yeah, he'd be someone you need to have in a hangout. But
he's coming back. He'll be back. Yeah, he wants to have another hangout. He's exceptionally nice, though.
Yeah, and sorry to jump around a little bit, about the content. I say I have these ideas for videos, and I think I should do that. No, just don't. Like it's just a waste of my time. But the one I was like what's that?
It's a lot of effort and time consuming making a video.
Well, you know what? It's enjoyable though, like especially if you have a process set up. I think when you have a vision in your mind what your video is going to look like when it's produced, like actually like the edits are done and you got whatever soundtrack put in, and then you sit down with software and try to figure it out. It takes a lot of time. It's frustrating, and it doesn't end up how you think it should look. But once you have a process, once you have a workflow, it's actually quite easy. You can sit down and kind of bang one out, and it's nice because it's like anything else in life where. Like I hate the term multitasking. It's going to sound like I'm going off topic here, but bear with me a second. I hate the term multitasking because people think that they're much more productive because, oh, I'm multitasking. Right now I'm, sending an email to somebody while I'm listening to music and I'm loading the dishwasher. And no, what you're doing, when you claim to be multitasking, you're partially doing a bunch of tasks poorly. So the nice thing about, I remember when I was a lot more active in music, because there'd be an hour or two in a day when everything else was just off. And I just put the headphones on, plug into the board, and then just sit there and do my thing. And I was like a professional musician for that 2-hour period, right? And I was only as good as ever I was, but you know what I mean? What I mean, you immerse yourself into it. You don't think that, you know, it's the same thing with the video making. I think when people make videos, it's a good thing to do in terms of saying, well, now I'm going to set aside whatever job stress or life stress or whatever. I'm just going to sit and do this video. And you got a good workflow. It's actually a really enjoyable process. The one that I wish I would do today, and of course it would have to be done in a timely fashion, because I think Monday's the big day, but everybody's been wigging out about why does the shadow in the solar eclipse travel from west to east across the face of the earth? And this is not a hard problem at all. And
it is the teal.
Okay, all the animations, like there's a lot of animations out there, and they'll show like the Earth that takes up about 1/4 of your screen, and then the moon that's about 3/8 of an inch away from it, whipping around the Earth faster than the Earth turns. And I'm like, well, that's the reason. And that's, I find those explanations very unsatisfying. I think if somebody made an analogy that was simply like, okay, if you picture you've got cars that are on a racetrack, and they're going around the track, and of course there's an inside track and an outside track. And it's a little bit unfair because the one on the inside track can make laps in, you know, with a shorter distance traveled. But then say, oh, well, let's take a look at this racetrack. Here's one where, you know, here's the inside track, and the outside track is way, 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 way out here. And you've got a guy, you've got a Lamborghini Diablo on the outside track, and you've got a guy riding a goat on the inside track, right? And there's a light over here on the west side of it, and just have them go around the screen counterclockwise. You could very, very easily describe for people, if you used a scale model, right, and showed that even somebody who's traveling as a low velocity can still have a higher, like a lower orbital period, a shorter orbital period. Literally, you know, the Diablo, sorry, the guy in a goat could do 28 laps in the time it takes the Diablo to do 1 lap. And then show, oh, by the way, what would happen with the shadow? Because when the Diablo passes the guy in a goat, he's like moving, right? And it'd be a very, very simple. Hopefully, it's for people who get this already. This illustration makes sense in your head. For people who are just listening to it and they still don't get it, maybe it'll help one of those 2 people. But I mean, if somebody drew up that animation, I'm not going to make it.
What?
I'm not going to make it. That's what I'm saying. I think of these things and I go, who's got the time? So I got to draw a goat. I got to sit down and paint and draw a goat now.
Yeah. Hey, I want to know the mouse of the goat.
Well, they're so confused about the directionality of things. It's like, you know, they don't realize that the moon is going around west to east. They don't get that.
Yeah, but that's not. No, but that's not the point, because it's going around more slowly. I mean, I think this is the single thing they're hooked up on, as far as I can tell, anyway, is that the moon is going around more slowly than we are on the surface. Right? We travel around the center of the Earth 28 times in the time that it takes the moon to make 1 lap.
Mm-hmm.
But the moon is faster.
Yeah.
Right? We're lapping more quickly, but the moon is actually traveling more quickly. So if you think about, well, who's making it around the Earth faster? Well, we do 28 laps while the moon does 1 lap. But if you say, well, let's look at that moment, that short interval of time when the moon actually passes in between the Earth and the sun, what would that pass look like? Well, the moon is moving so fast, its linear velocity is so much faster, it blows by us like we're standing still. And that's, to me, is the single thing, is the confusion between the linear velocity versus the angular velocity.
Right, exactly. Because the angular velocity of the rotation is the linear velocity of the moon, correct.
The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that the moon is only traveling over a small section of the sky. So whatever speed that it has, slower or faster than us, or how long it takes to complete the lap, it doesn't matter, because it's only going across a small section of the sky. And it's blocking light so that shadow gets to travel really far.
And what's really cool is if you go to Stellarium and you actually go to a city that's in the path of totality and you actually look at the time, you'll see the sun, the moon, you'll see how the moon is converging on it, and it's awesome, right? And of course, the only way we can do that, make those kind of predictions, is if the model works, if the rounder model works.
I'm actually going to open up Stellarium.
I've been having a fun argument with Ran on that, because he was claiming that maths was, we were being deceived by the maths because it has been altered to prove around Earth.
Math's been altered. Yeah. Well, you got to remember he's a Poe. I'm sorry. I know. Hogtie disagrees with me, but I am convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Rand Campbell does not think they're this flat. He's a total Poe on that. Yeah.
So I asked him for an example to show that, and he went magic, and I said, well, that was actually a more intelligent answer than the one I was actually expecting. But never mind. It still doesn't actually address my question. And asked it again, and he came. Well, I'm not saying that maths is wrong. I'm just saying that you can't prove that ISIS is traveling around the Earth at 14,000 miles an hour. I went. So in that case, do you agree with Pythagoras? I thought just a nice little innocent question. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, speaking about math, we got to get this going, guys. We got to get this going. So I thought
I would bring you to a math side. You see what I did there?
Well,
do you feel vented? Have you like got it all out of your system?
Well, I want to punctuate this with the caption here that, like, I wish G-Man, and if he ever gets around to watching this, would realize how, because I was using an example about how we creationists look when they can't argue with what Dawkins actually believes and instead have to create something. And I wish G-Man would realize, sort of within community here, I wish G-Man would realize how weak and utterly impotent he looks in his ability to address points made by Steve McRae. Like, he can't address Steve McRae's actual beliefs.
You just called G-Man
No
impotent.
offense.
You know what he's going to think now? He's going to be calling up Drag and going, Hogtie champs that called me impotent. He doesn't think that my penis works. Watch. It's going to happen, guys.
Why is Hogtie talking about my penis? Yeah. Well,
actually, Hogtie, can you just now call yourself AKA Viagra?
Yeah, but it just, yeah. I mean, does he not realize how he cannot, how he looks like he can't address people's actual beliefs? And it's not even a straw man for him to say that Steve says this thing that's the exact opposite of what Steve has said repeatedly. So
you watched that yesterday. Did you watch Drag's Hangout then?
I watched. Okay, so there's that long one. It's like 5.5 hours. I was in that for a bit, and then I checked in a little while later. Okay, yeah, I'm getting to that. Yeah, so then but I only heard a couple of minutes of it, and then I heard, oh, well, now you guys were trying to set up a thing, and you were like, I couldn't even really be bothered. But then apparently you were bothered, because then you did. And I've now listened to probably all but the last 5 minutes of, you were talking about your beard for part of it, and like, and all I heard from G-Man, the answer is yes, I heard it. But all I heard from G-Man was, well, I'm going to play this clip. Here's my evidence. I'm going to play this clip. And then I'm going to need 5 minutes. Twice. And then, now I'm going to need 10 minutes. And he's going to play the clip. Well, now I'm going to need 15 minutes because I'm going to play the exact same clip again.
I know.
Well, why don't you tell us what he said and how that means that he said what you said he said? Like,
how do you understand why I wasn't going any further until he presented the evidence that he said he was going to present? I mean, do you understand why I wasn't going to go down this rabbit hole and answer his questions? Because that wasn't what my purpose was being there for. And I had told Drag, today, I was like, look, if he would have said, you know what, I was wrong. You didn't say this. I apologize. I'll let people know, kind of stuff. Now let's talk about the actual arguments that, I would have been, okay, let's go there, I guess. But we did that, right?
I know, but when you say, do you understand? You say, Hogtie, do you understand? You're looking for an endorsement. You're saying, Hogtie, do you think that was a good idea? If I'm going to endorse anyone's behavior, it's going to be Dragnuts, because he said, look, I'm not getting into this. I will just make sure people get the amount of time they want. And okay. And he even told G-Man, he said, look, if Steve wants to just clown around and just like riff and talk with the audience, that's his choice. If you think that makes him not do well in the debate, well, then that's a point for you, G-Man, not a point for Steve. That's your choice, a discussion, whatever it was. And I thought that was a good point by Drag. In terms of whether or not that was a good way for any of you to approach it, I mean, yeah, I'm going to say yes, Steve. Normally, I'm hesitant to endorse that kind of behavior because
I know. I would never do it in an actual discussion.
It's childish. It's childish. But yes, I get it. And when you did it, I'm glad that you did it and stuck to your guns with it, because the express message there was, look, G-Man, you wanted to have a discussion to argue out this one specific point. And we are going to address that one specific point. And that point being your claim to possess evidence that I hold a particular belief or that I said a particular thing. So until we get past that, we're not talking about anything else. So G-Man complains because you were talking about your beard and you were asking someone about their wife and kids. And who knows what, you were just talking about a whole bunch of stuff. But what was G-Man talking about? He starts talking about how there's no proof for evolution. And about 50 times he brings up, oh, and you guys say bad things about true empiricism. Well, who gives a fuck about true empiricism in this conversation? You guys are supposed to be talking about whatever your issue was. He went off on 90 different topics. Yep. And the one thing he couldn't do was simply say, look, actually, there's two things he could have done, which he did neither of these things. He simply could have said, look, here's my proof that this is what Steve said. He may have changed his mind about it. He may have misspoke at the time, but here's my proof that he actually said this. He never does that, never comes up with evidence. He plays the same clip over and over again, never has the evidence. The second thing he could have done, and this would have impressed the hell out of me, I'd have fallen out of my chair, is if he would have said, okay, I'm right about these big picture issues. Steve is wrong about this issue. So Steve, you tell me what you actually believe. Let's wipe the slate clean. I want to know what you actually believe, Steve, and from there I will tell you why you're wrong.
I would have probably floored myself. I would have been like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah, that would have thrown me actually.
And you know what? I think you'd have changed gears then. I think if he'd have done that, you'd have went, okay, yeah. Then if he would have said, okay, let's put this behind us, let's talk about it, and then
I kind of would have expected an apology.
Saying something barely intelligent.
I think I would have expected an apology though.
Well,
I know that was not going to happen. But I agree with you. I probably would have changed gears. I would have been more. I would have been more back and forth and had a dialogue with them on what he wanted.
I'm just trying to draw a hard line here. Like, I don't like getting into conversations with somebody if they're just going to be childish,
right?
Because then it puts you in a position of you got to decide whether you're going to leave or be childish too.
Well, and I've done both. One off, obviously. This is not how I actually have discussions.
Yeah. No, I know it's not. Sure. But I think it actually, again, as an exception, I think doing that once in a while helps illustrate for people that, like, look, if we all approach these conversations with G-Man sort of mentality about, oh, well, then I'm not going to do this. Like, now he's making threats. Now, this is the same guy over the last couple of weeks. He said repeatedly, I never turn down a debate. I never run from the atheist. For people who are keeping track, we're now up to 15 times that he's backed out of debate with me on various topics. Yep. Yeah.
I did challenge him to debate. He turned me down, so he can't.
I challenged him in person when we were in New York. I challenged him to it. I said, when we get back, we can have a debate on evolution, and I'll school you. You know, it's kind of jokingly, but he still won't accept that one.
Yeah, but now he says, well, for a while he's been saying, I won't even debate Matt Dillahunty. He's not worth my time. And now he's added a whole bunch of people to that list. He's not going to debate any atheist or any agnostic from the whole YouTube thing. And there was somebody else that. PZ Myers.
Yeah, I love that one.
PZ, like, I don't care how badly PZ Myers wants to debate the old G-Man.
Yeah, PZ's like, no.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, PZ's like, no. I mean,
not gonna happen until Steve apologizes.
He's in like check, half the time going, no. I haven't told PZ. He got mad when I told PZ, don't waste your time having a debate with G-Man. I know that you're not going to anyways, but if you ever have a debate with somebody like you had with like Fuzz Ron or something like that, have somebody of interest. I think it would be interesting. And he's just like, yeah, where is G-Man getting this idea from, that I would ever debate him?
You know what I'm most disappointed by, though? I'm most disappointed. I can't entirely be surprised by it, but I'm disappointed by. I haven't heard G-Man. I guess he had one that was about 5.5 hours or 3, 2, whatever. I haven't seen his thing yet. I've heard some people retell of it about him planning to do some rival network thing, and
yeah, he wants.
I just can't remember. I heard some. Yeah, but I did listen to the first hour of Drag's thing from today, and I'm really disappointed that somehow this leads to, well, now, like, you guys exchanged phone numbers. And then, well, now he doesn't want to talk to Drag or to Hannah, like, right. And this whole idea that, well, everybody who happened to be in New York that week, I'm not talking to them anymore. And that, I'm just pining away at the loss of just the civility amongst.
I didn't believe that I predicted something like that. Did I not? Did I not say he would have a little honeymoon phase kind of thing, and he would go back, and it would be a backlash? Because I remember Van Campbell and Arcane all giving him shit for hanging out with the atheists and being friendly. And I said this is not going to last very long. He's going to go back. It's going to be worse.
Well, we all knew to some degree that it would kind of be back to things as normal. Like I didn't necessarily agree with the backlash thing, but we all knew that he didn't have the type of mentality to form strong bonds with people who disagree with him. Like that was never an expectation for me, and that's why I've always kind of kept him at arm's length. The most I did was give him my personal number, because I said, well, you know what? Since I have been kind of mean to him in the past, and that kind of now since I have understood kind of who he is as a person, let me then offer, I guess, an olive branch of sorts and give him my personal number, which I didn't have to. So every time like he would start having technical difficulties on his broadcast, I would send him a text message. I would call him and say, hey, try this. When he was doing his conversation with Rabbi Lewis, that was me on the phone with him, and the suggestion he gave Rabbi Lewis was directly from me. So it's, I have been overly nice to him more than I should be. I should not have done anything, honestly. But I wanted to do that just to see how it would be returned. I was curious if he would bite my hand, and even up to the point of yesterday, he spoke to my wife, which very few people in GDC have ever spoken to my wife or even seen my wife. And so he should feel honored that I allowed my wife to sit there and talk him down, have a wonderful conversation. From what I understand, I don't even know what they talked about. It's not my business. But for him to do that, that shows you what type of person he is.
He feels like he's been lulled into some like sense of security, like, oh well, Drag just wants to be my friend because he wants to get me out of Christianity, and that's the whole point of this great debate.
No.
And like we have two Christians in here. I guarantee you, neither one have ever heard me or anybody else that I'm aware of ever try to convince him not to be a Christian. I don't think this ever happened. I know I haven't.
I'm gonna go play some video games with my bro. See you guys later.
Yeah, we do.
I was planning on staying until the end, but man, we're just rambling.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm gonna help Stephen drop off too.
Every time I say there's going to be a short hangout, it ends up being a lot longer. And then Hogtie, like the last second, pops in every time.
I'll one more thing you into another half hour always. I hope the thing turns around.
Yeah, I like your feedback. I appreciate what you said.
Yeah, G-Max,
I found someone that's more long-winded than General Han Solo.
I might watch the math hangout, but I'm going to be playing with my brother. He works, so.
All right, thank you, sir.
See you guys later.
Yeah,
thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, appreciate everybody who dropped in. Hogtie, I definitely appreciate your feedback on it. I think everybody in the Great Debate has pretty much got the same position. They all know that G-Man could not substantiate his claim that I've ever said this. He outright, to me, lied about it. And you can make the argument, well, he's just stupid and he believes what he believes, therefore he's not lying. Fine, semantic, I don't care. But the reality is he's wrong. The reality is he is misleading people. And it's the fact that he wants to false flag channels and I don't think he will, but he threatens to. And to me, that's just not something I really want to have a discussion with anyways,
Oh, I forgot about the part where he threatened to flag your channel. Let's close because I got 12 things to say about that.
That was after he threatened to start doxing people too. And so,
he threatened to dox.
Yeah, you forgot about that? Yeah, we're going to dox people.
Let me tell people if you don't.
Okay. One more thing.
Yeah, my name is real. My address is out there. My phone number is out there. What else is there to dox? You want my measurements?
I mean, I guess he didn't expect. Every time he says this, I do this.
We heard it was 4 inches.
Yeah.
Well, if you measure in millimeters, it sounds more impressive.
Yeah, it does. Like if anyone wants to find me, my name is Alfred Mims, MIMMS. There you go. I dox myself. Have fun.
And he ain't lying. That's
my real name.
I don't know why his parents did that to him, but whatever.
I don't know. So,
but anyways, all right, let's wrap this up, guys. Jade, you gonna be in the next hangout?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Hogtie will drop by too. So, anyways, we're gonna.
Oh, and by the way, I
boy.
have the coolest name.
You have a what?
I just want you to know I have the coolest name. Jade Janda Binder. There.
I knew your name. I didn't know your. I think you've said your middle name before. I mean, I know your real name, but I did.
So there, we're doxing ourselves. So what can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are doxing yourself. You ain't getting it from me.
No, we don't expect you to. You got.
I know. Well, you know what? I'll tell you how paranoid I am about it. When I was going to do the trip to New York, one of the things I was going to do was to think of an alternate name that people there could call me, and I mean people
Evan
like Fiona,
Phillips.
who I really trust. Evan Phillips there. Yeah. Okay, but here's the problem, right? Because it's actually not legal. It says I'm not because I'm not a citizen, right? So if I visit your country, I have to carry ID with my real name on it from my own country, and I would have kept it in a separate bag with a note in the event that we encountered police. I would have a note that says, if you want to learn who I am, separate me from my friends because I'm not saying my name in front of my friends. And then I would have explained to them separately. This is how paranoid the old Hogtie champ is. Mm-hmm. Now sticking with my habit of referring myself in third person, the HTC.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now I'm getting worried.
You wouldn't have to worry about that because while we were in New York, we all referred to each other by our handles anyway. Everyone called me Drag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could just use a nickname. Everybody could call you Speedy or something.
Oh yeah. We call Vincent Speedy.
All right. I'm going to start this other hangout in about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to grab a bite real quick. Who wants the last word? I usually just sign somebody.
I do. I called it.
Go ahead, take it.
Okay. Yeah. So Steve is about to do the math hangout, and later today, probably at around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or in the real world, as we call it, we'll be doing a discussion on the principle of sufficient reason, and I've got some Christian apologists from the Christian Apologetics Alliance on Facebook who said that they'll probably be there. So yeah, you guys should check that out, and it'll be on the Great Debate Community YouTube channel. And I will close with this. I'll close with something very substantial. The Lord Jesus Christ, who is blessed and only sovereign, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, who alone possesses immortality and dwells in an unapproachable light, whom no man has seen or can see, to him be honor and eternal dominion. Amen.
Well, there you go.
Amen, I thought we hated Christians here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hey, you know, edit that part out after we're done.
That was the last word.
Well,
that's the last word.